I love the idea of the time where people would name their car. Because when somebody bought a car, they weren't thinking about buying a new car in 3, 4, 5 years' time. That was the car, that was the family car, and it usually got a name, you know, it might have been called Dave or Sue or something like that. And that's where the idea around about actually naming the pieces with actual names and giving them a bit of a story, and then hoping that when somebody bought a piece of furniture from Denholm that they would keep it no matter what. They would keep it if it got damaged, if it got drawn on by a child, one of their kids. Memories would be trapped inside that piece. Pieces need the history for them to really have the value that I would like to have associated with the actual piece itself. My name's Stephen. We're here at Denholm HQ in Melbourne. So the name Denholm comes from a little village which is called Denholm, but we actually pronounce it Denham. It's a little village in the Scottish borders, roughly around about 600 people, which is great. Like, we definitely had the stereotypical kind of perfect upbringing, I would say. Leaving school at 16, didn't really want to do stonemasonry. Just wasn't allowed to leave school unless I had a trade. So looking back on that, that's quite lucky. I always do remember it was a Thursday night, and usually on that Thursday night I'd be at football training, and Dad's come up the stairs and he's like, "Hey Steve, what's going on?" And I'm sewing on my granny's sewing machine, and he literally was just like, "You've lost the plot." And then I think probably 6 months later, I had told him that I wasn't going to finish my stonemasonry apprenticeship and that I had enrolled in Fashion College in Glasgow. So that didn't go down too well at the time. We came out to Australia because we'd both finished the degree in Manchester, and being in that creative field, really the only place you can go to after that in the UK is London. Never really fancied London too much. And then we arrived, and within 3 months I knew that I needed to stay here. And we just pretty much doubled down on finding a way to stay, and that led me back to working in the building industry as a stonemason again. I probably was in the building industry for roughly around about 6 years before I started to kind of get itchy for that creative output again. And I got myself a studio where my wife was working. And one of the other girls that had a studio was a leathersmith, and she wanted a stone plinth made for a photo shoot. She asked to make something in the kind of like Brancusi-esque kind of style. And I thought, yeah, I'll give it a crack. Made this plinth, dropped it off. Everyone got a little bit excited about it. They thought that it took me like a month to make, and it literally took me 4 hours. And I was like, oh, there's something in this. How I ended up working with the limestone was I was down at the Merchant selecting some of the Western Australian limestone for the plinth that I made for the leathersmith. And my wife, Bobby, said to me, she said, "Oh, I really like that white stone." And I was like, "Oh, I'm not too sure about it. It's a bit too soft." She's like, No, you need to get some of that stone and do something with it." So I was like, all right, cool. And after I made that plinth, I started playing about with the white stone, the South Australian limestone, and everybody loved it, and which led me to start producing in it more. And the great thing about the stone is that it is a soft medium compared to other stone. So there's a kind of happy medium. There's definitely an exchange of labour to get to a set point, but not that much labour that you're spent. Because when you're working the stone, you need to have the capacity to make these decisions in realms that are unknown, as well as having enough energy, physical output to get you there. The other thing that's interesting in terms of my personality and the actual sculpture in stone is that I'm very much need stuff to happen quickly, and if I get that option, I'll choose to take it. Whereas I don't get to do that with the carving in stone. It has to make me slow down. Because if I make a mistake when I'm working in stone, I know I've got such a long time to bring that back online, so it slows down my decision making. The stone is so consistent. It has a lot of little intricate kind of facets that are quite beautiful when you get up close, which is like all the dead fossils from a bygone era. I do really enjoy the fact that no piece is ever the same, and it's always quite exciting to get new stone from the merchant and see what we're getting, because sometimes we've had little bands of red running through it or little bands of green running through it, but that just all adds to the beauty and the fact that the unknown. It's something that I really enjoy adding into the finished pieces, is leaving a little chip, not getting everything absolutely perfect. None of my lines are run perfectly parallel. All the curves on the corners are all eyeballed. That fluid, unknown part is something I must keep in the piece. A lot of the time, the pieces that I'm making for Denholm are for a particular brief, for a particular space. I don't necessarily see a sculpture as the finished piece. I see the sculpture in its surrounding as the finished piece. So I am definitely thinking about the overall viewer in terms of where it's situated. And then once I've captured that understanding, I'll take that to sketchbook and work very free. I'm not uptight in the way that my motion is. And then I genuinely try and carry that freedom, that flow in the line making into the exact line within the piece. And then once we have the image, I then figure out how we're going to manipulate the weight across the piece. And I'll maybe stack some stuff up and then start drawing directly onto the stone. But I will always say that it is the beginning of the process. I am not caged by that drawing. I'm always thinking about how it's going to be viewed, that interaction from a distance, then how it starts to unfold the closer you get, and then have a reaction. I'm not trying to decide what that reaction is, I'm just looking for a reaction, because that's kind of what my personality is like. I want to engage with people, you know what I mean? I love the idea of coming from a little village where you walk past each other and you said hello, you said good morning, you said good evening, you stopped for a 2-minute, 1-minute chat, and maybe that's what I'm trying to bring out with some of that level of engagement, but it's with a piece of furniture instead of a person.
This video is brought to you by 10, our debut hardcover book celebrating 10 issues of the local project. 10 unites the very best projects from the first 10 issues of the publication into a beautiful single volume. With over 400 pages of architecture and design from both leading and emerging creatives, the hardcover book takes readers on a curated and meditative journey. The premium paper stock of the book means 10 is an enduring addition to a coffee table or library to be enjoyed for years to come. With worldwide delivery available, have 10 delivered directly to your door. Head to the link in the video description to purchase your copy now and use the code BOOK5 at checkout for a 5% discount.